Hi, in my last video you watched me use a casting net to catch bait. That's not the only way that you can catch bait. And in some states you can't use a casting net, or conditions just aren't right where you want to be to have a casting net, or you just don't want to go through that expense to buy one. But that isn't the only way that you can catch bait. Just stay tuned. Hi, my name is Gerry and I am a twin troller boat owner. Now, in some states, especially northern states, you cannot use a casting net to catch bait. It's very effective, and here in the south they use them all the time, but there are other ways. Now, sometimes you might not want to use a casting net just because you don't own one. You don't want to learn how to use one. Sometimes you get wet when you're using it, or you just want to use your fishing rod to catch one. I'm going to show you how to use one of these. You probably all have one to catch live bait. Let me show you a few things that you may need. You can just use a regular fishing rod like I showed you. You take a swivel like this. It doesn't make much difference what size, and you don't always have to have these, but these are kind of handy. A swivel. The line you're going to use, the best to use would be a fluorocarbon line, something like this. This one happens to be 8-pound test. 4-pound is fine. You're only trying to catch a little bait. You don't need anything really big, unless where you're trying to catch them there's a lot of weed growth that maybe you might get caught on. So you need some line. Fluorocarbon connects to that swivel. Down from that, you need what's called a bobber stop. That's what these are. See the little round rubber beads on the end? This is what they look like in the package. You can buy them at most tackle shops. Bass Pro Shops carries them online, other places. Down the line, you need a bobber. Not this kind. You don't want a round bobber. You want this kind of bobber. See, it's cylindrical shaped. The key is that this one has a hole all the way through the middle, and I'll show you why that's important. And your size of bobber is important. Even though this is cylindrical shaped, so is this one kind of, but this is way too big. This is for catching the bass after you catch the bait. And then down at the bottom, you're going to use some hooks. You can use little skinny hooks like this. This is a gold Aberdeen hook. I hope it focuses. Or this one is very much the same thing. This is also a number 8, like this one is, and it is a Eagle Claw Aberdeen hook. It's not gold, it's dark colored. Doesn't make much difference. Has to do with the size. If you're trying to catch large bait, you want probably a bigger hook. This is a small enough hook to literally catch anything. You need some small beads, kind of like this, about this size. And why do you need it that size? Because it has to stop the line from going through that tiny little hole in this little bobber. So small beads. Then on the bottom, this is a hook that I use a lot. It's an Eagle Claw snelled fishing hook. And this one happens to be in size 12. I sometimes use size 10. But this is a really small hook, and it's extremely sharp. When you set the hook on this, you usually catch them. This is a spinning rod. Works much better for doing this than a casting rod or bait caster, because you're going to throw a relatively lighter line. But use whatever you have. This happens to be 6.5 feet tall. If I had a 7-foot rod, I would use that. If you had something even longer, that's fine. If you have something shorter, that's fine. It only holds the line. Now, I probably have 10-pound test on here, which is fine. So we're going to start with our line. Now I talked earlier about a swivel. If you have some other kind of line on here that's really not kind of conducive to what you're doing here, and you want to now put on much lighter fluorocarbon line, don't worry about what you already have on your rod. You take your line, tie on that swivel. I hope you can see that. I have a swivel on the end of one line, and then I'm going to add more line on it. But eventually, I want to have a bobber stop after the swivel, but down the line, so that I can adjust this to make the height of the bobber at different heights. Well, how do I do that? I take the bobber stops. These come with multiple little wires with little rubber things on it. I take the line, put it through the little loop at the end, at the top, see how it sticks out? And now I've got it through there. And then I take the bobber stop, pull it right up and off the wire. Eventually I pull the tag end out. There you go. And the bobber stop is left behind. Now I can slide this up and down without damaging the line to whatever length I want it at. I take my line, again I'm going to tie on another knot. Beads go on next, small bead. Doesn't make any difference what color. Here's the small bead in my hand, put the line through it. Okay, like that. So that goes up towards the swivel. Remember the little bobbers? Now these are pretty small and you could use a larger one, but you don't need a huge one like the other ones I showed you. What's important about these? You can blow through them because it's a hole that goes all the way through. Now sometimes the little bobbers, the hole in the middle, has a little piece of styrofoam in there. Get yourself a piece of wire. Just stick it in there just to make sure if you're having trouble getting your line to go through. So now I have the line and it comes out the other side, just like that. Now I'm going to put on another one of those beads, tiny little ones. You probably want line maybe this long at the most. So my hook is going to be about here, even though I used a whole bunch of more line here. So I'm going to take this little split shot that we had. The small little split shot has an opening on it. You put the line through it and squeeze it. It's lead, so it squeezes pretty easy. But if you don't squeeze it too hard, you can still slide it up and down till you figure out exactly where you want it. And this keeps everything from falling off. Okay? At this end there's a bead, at this end there's a swivel. Everything inside is captured. So now we want to put on a hook. So since I've determined I want this much line, now if you want longer line then put on longer, but I'm gonna cut this off. So now I need to put on a hook. I can use any one of those hooks that I showed you. I'm just for the heck of it because I never took this out of the package to show you what this is. This is a snelled hook. It's a size 12. A hint, take it out through the bottom of the plastic. Just put the tip of the hook through until you make a hole enough to pull it out. If you try to pull it this way, it catches all the rest of the hooks in the package, or it catches the packaging itself and it's very difficult to get out. This way they come out one at a time. So now we have pretty much everything together. A swivel, a bobber stop, a bead, my float, another bead, and then down here, well, then a little sinker, and then down here the line going to a hook. I have a snelled line, but you could always just tie a hook direct. And how does this work? I throw this out in the water. The little sinker, and you may have to add several if you want them, pulls this down into the water with a little bit of bait on the bottom. And this little bobber floats up till it hits this bobber stop. So this now sets the height of the water, or the depth I should say of the water, from the bobber down to here. So if you only wanted your bobber, from the bobber down to the hook to be less, you slide your little bobber stop down, and now this whole thing will only go up and down to this kind of range. So this would be floating on the surface, and you'd only have it in the water this far down. Again, if you want it more, stretch it all the way up, and you could have this way in the water all the way down this deep. That way you can do whatever you want. Now if you find that this is not enough weight to pull this down in the water, just put some more beads on there. See how there's 3 little lead weights there? You could put 10 of them there if you needed it, or you could use slightly larger ones. You just need enough weight there to pull this down and to let this come all the way to the top. Now, I could show you in the lake, but it's kind of a little bit choppy, a little bit breezy, and you wouldn't be able to see it very well in the dark water. So let's do something different. I hope you can see this in the pool. So if I drop this in the water, see the little 3 sinkers pulling it down? It gets all the way down to the bobber stop at the top. Actually, it's up by the swivel, so that's way down. If I don't need it that far down in the water, all I have to do is adjust this by pulling the bobber stop down like this. And it only comes down to the bobber stop. Just like there. So what would you put on the end of that little hook? You can buy packaged things like these. These are mealworms. They don't work so good. They're usually all dried out. They're brittle as heck. But if you can get them to stay in the hook, they work. You can also buy those things live in little packages, and just like you buy night crawlers or little worms. But Berkeley makes all kinds of little things. Here's 3 more. Now, these are shaped all kinds of crazy shapes. These are shaped like little maggots. These are shaped like little nuggets. These are shaped like small little worms. Those are also maggots again. Grubs, if you want to call them. So you can use all of those things, and they all do work. I've caught especially small fish, bluegill and things like that, or shiners on them. They all work. The one thing that probably works the best, you can put a worm on there. Small piece of a worm. Small piece of night crawler, or just a regular trout type worm, a little worm. Just put it on there. You just have to cover it. But this works almost as well. And if you don't have the opportunity to go to the store and get some worms and hang on to them and keep them alive, this is something you have in your house that you probably can use. That works very well. Showing you that video right now will make this one too long, so you're going to have to stand by and wait for the next. If you like my video, feel free to subscribe. Just push that button in the corner, or give me a thumbs up, or share it with your friends, or right below, just write comments or questions. Thanks for watching.